Doppler, as the Israel-Hamas war rages on in the Middle East, concerns about medical support are growing. In particular, some neurologists are worried about epilepsy, a condition which is caused by abnormal electric activity in the brain. It can be a result of combat, and symptoms may not show up immediately. ABC 7's mental health correspondent Avery Martinez brings us extra depth on future wounds, lasting impacts of combat today.
As drones and explosions rock the Middle East in Israel and Gaza, many doctors are focused on triaging immediate combat wounds. But others, like the man I'm about to introduce you to, are focused on the long-term impacts of the conflict, especially the invisible ones.
So you have an incident, you have, for example, a traumatic brain injury, and then not all of the patients develop epilepsy. What happens in this period between the injury and the first seizure and the epilepsy? And this period is a very, very critical period.
Because combat can lead to epilepsy and mental conditions years later.
Me as a physician, we are from the first day had to be there for the patients. We cannot close our eyes from anybody, from any of the sides.
In Tel Aviv, Dr. Felix Beringer is trying to study long-term conditions alongside the new realities of Israel.
Many of the soldiers are extremely motivated and extremely shocked suddenly to be injured and to be away from their fellow soldiers. And there's a big, big motivation from them to go back into the field. And here, of course, my concern is, first of all, health and to keep them away from further injuries. And epilepsy itself.
And symptoms could show up at any time.
And the seizure itself, with a change of consciousness or loss of consciousness and a fall, can cause also injuries and prevents most of the patients from an active lifestyle, driving, high-risk sports, and, of course, as soldiers to be in the field.
He's hopeful that Israel's rigorous medical system can help track soldiers in particular.
I believe that there has to be really a monitoring from the IDF or from the health ministry, from all the hospitals to see how many patients with traumatic brain injuries we do have took care of and how many of them do develop epilepsy.
He says it's a life-changing condition which can be treated but often is forgotten.
From veteran studies, with the mild to severe traumatic brain injury, 15 to 30% of patients do develop epilepsy and then have a chronic disorder which needs treatment.
He hopes injured soldiers can be followed throughout their lives.
To see, do we have an uprise, do we have an increase of patients with epileptic seizures and with anti-seizure medication, and we do a nationwide follow-up study.
He says epilepsy can happen after a brain injury, explosions, strokes, and there's been a sharp increase in older people with seizures. A major question is how and why. He hopes this data could be used in future research on treating, identifying, and timing epileptic development.
Disabling feature of epilepsy, I think, is the unknown. And the fear of seizures is an immense burden on those patients.
Which can lead to depression and other mental struggles.
I mean, these patients, people, and I don't know, it's really an emotional topic. These are not professional soldiers. Suddenly they were caught into the conflict and in war, and suddenly I see them with a traumatic brain injury.
And that's the impacts of events today, which could cause struggles in the future.
These conflicts, they're next door. They're not somewhere in the world. We have to really think about it together, what happened to those patients, to not only to the soldiers, to the civilians. It's not only the immediate injury, it's also the long-term effect and the chronic chronification of the disease of the war injuries.
He told me that globally we have to think about how we're going to treat these wounds long-term, no matter where they occur. But for now, he's focused on triaging the immediate wounds. I'm Avery Martinez for ABC 7.